Hello and welcome to the Get Online podcast. I am your host, Stacey Kehoe, and today's episode is going to be a repurposed webinar that I did with Small Business Britain and BT's Skills for Tomorrow. For any of you that have tuned into the podcast for some time now, you will no doubt know all about the content waterfall, which is a repurposing methodology that we use here at my marketing agency, Brandlective. So I'm going to follow through on all of the things that I'm always speaking about and actually repurpose this webinar for you. Now, it is recorded during the lockdown period, so you will hear all the mishaps that go wrong and these sorts of things. And it's a little bit of dog barking in the background as I'm introduced. But this was such an awesome webinar that I had the privilege of running with a couple of hundred people actually on this episode listening. The feedback since it's gone live has been incredible. So I really do hope you enjoy listening to this, learning all about disruptive marketing.
Hello and welcome. My name is Michelle Ovens. I am founder of Small Business Britain, and we are here today with the lovely Stacey talking about digital marketing for disruptive brands, how you can create a bold brand identity. And this is part of our fantastic Skills for Tomorrow program with BT. This is a great program. It's all completely free for you to learn digital skills and help your business. We know that's particularly important at the moment with the current situation with COVID. Digital skills are really a massive lifeline for small businesses. So we want to help you as much as we possibly can. So what I'm going to do to start is a quick video from the very lovely Kehoe who heads up the Skills for Tomorrow program. And so here we are, Kehoe.
Hello and welcome to BT Skills for Tomorrow. My name is Kehoe Jennings and I'm BT's Digital Impact Director. I run Skills for Tomorrow. We actually set up the program a few months ago and it's designed to help communities all over the UK in different ways to develop their confidence online and to develop their digital skills. Now more than ever, with COVID-19, it's really, really important that we're here to support you. We want to help you develop your confidence. We want you to help you reach your digital routes to market. We want you to help promote your products and services to your customers. And we really, really want you to succeed. We've put together this program of webinars, which are completely free for you and for your co-workers. We want to help inspire you to start using some of the collaboration tools that will genuinely help you save time and money and help you get your routes to market quicker. It's really important that you feel confident with digital tools and that you're able to communicate with your co-workers really effectively. Working remotely is a challenge for all of us. I'm working from home right now. It's a challenge for absolutely all of us. And you just have to adapt. You have to adapt really quickly and turn to valuable advice where you can get it. We've been talking to a huge number of small businesses ourselves through our partners, Small Business Britain, and also Google Digital Garage. We've been listening to the way that people are facing all kinds of different challenges and problems at the moment. We're trying to respond rapidly with the types of help, advice and support that we feel is most useful to you. So we're starting with some key tools around collaboration, digital marketing, and also how to optimize your business model. We want to help you take your business online so that you can discover your customers and that they can discover you. It's really important as well that you open up communication channels with your customers. Now more than ever, it's the human side of business. That's what matters, and that's what we're trying to help you do. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to hashtag Skills for Tomorrow. I really hope that you learn something valuable. I hope you learn some good top tips, and I hope you tell others about us. We're here to help you. It's BT Skills for Tomorrow. Thank you.
The wonderful Kehoe Jennings. So it is without further ado, we hand over to Stacey. Hello, Stacey. Can you hear me? Come in, Stacey.
Hello. Yes, I can.
So I'm going to hand over to Stacey now, who is going to talk you through the workshop today. We will have time for questions as we go through. There's a chat box if you want to post some questions in. Kind of let Stacey get into her flow a little bit, and we can pick up any other questions at the end. So Stacey, over to you.
Hello. Yes, thank you. A huge thank you to Small Business Britain and to BT Skills for Tomorrow for inviting me to join this webinar today. And we're going to be talking all about disruptive marketing. how to cut through the noise and get noticed, really noticed. I'll begin today by talking a little bit about what is disruptive marketing. So it's much more than a buzzword. Disruptive marketing is changing the way we react to, we understand, and the way that we accept companies and their advertising. We know that today, our world is moving quicker than ever before. It's a moment where there's so much happening, there's so much noise, especially online, that we need to find ways of cutting through that noise and disrupting the timeline so that our audience actually, we can grab their attention. So we're excited to be here today. A little about me. So I'm Stacey Kehoe. I am the founder of Brandlective Communications, which is a digital marketing agency based in London. And I'm also the author of a book called Get Online. Yes, that was actually released almost a year ago, which is a year before the pandemic and before lockdown actually happened. And I would love to claim that I had predicted that everybody needed to be online. But the truth is that disruption has been happening for a long time. And we have needed to be doing this for quite some time. So that's a little about me. One thing I do mention actually in the book is that there's an interesting fact from the World Economic Forum, which estimates that 65% of children currently entering primary school will have jobs that don't yet exist. So 65% of 5-year-olds will have jobs that don't yet exist. Let that sink in for a second, because it is a bit scary, but I'm a perfect example of this. I run a digital agency. We mostly focus on social media, content, marketing, and delivery. And that didn't exist when I was 5 years old. Didn't even exist when I was 15 years old. So we shouldn't be afraid of disruption. We shouldn't be afraid of digital and of change. It's something that we just need to accept. We need to get on board with it, and we need to be kind of excited about it. Another phrase that you can see here on my screen that I've mentioned, I talk about in the book, is one of my greatest fears, which is really that traditional businesses that operate solely offline will get left behind. So today we're going to be talking all about how to be disruptive, how to grab attention, because that is not what we want to see happen. We want to see you all survive and thrive and do amazing things online. So that's the question, right? How do you stand out from the crowd? Now that we are all online, because we're being forced to be, industries that have never embraced digital before, have always worked either as shopfront or retail, had commercial space, have now been forced to actually figure out how do we add a revenue stream that is digital, that is online for survival, right? The challenge with that is that there's so much noise. Everybody is online. So how do you even stand out from the crowd? If you're a really small business, you do the same thing as a bunch of other businesses, how do you stand out? Here's a quote from Richard Branson describing what is disruptive marketing. So he says, disruption is all about risk-taking, trusting your intuition, rejecting the way things are supposed to be. Disruption goes way beyond advertising. It forces you to think about where you want your brand to go and how to get there. You'll see up on my screen now, I've got a bunch of logos that you will recognize, right? You can see Instagram, Facebook, Visa, Shell, Amazon, Twitter, BMW, Starbucks, Mitsubishi, Coca-Cola, Samsung. These are all brands that are household names. We recognize them. We can recognize them from just their logo. We don't even need to see the name. That is how powerful they are. What can we do as small businesses to obtain that level of recognition and to be that memorable that we make a lasting impression? Today, I'd like to start off by talking a little about some really well-known disruptive marketing campaigns that you will be aware of. And then I'm going to take you through a few examples of how small businesses can replicate this methodology around disruption. So first, the brand I'd love to speak about today is Dove. We all know Dove's Real Beauty campaign, where we see lots of diversity, women of all shapes and sizes. And that's just an expectation we have in 2020 from skincare brands, from beauty brands, right? This real beauty. But the truth is that Dove were actually complete game changers in this. They were the ones leading this messaging from the front. This campaign, the Real Beauty campaign, came out in 2006, which was a major risk take back then. This was nothing that had been done before. We're used to being seeing, beautiful models used across all skincare and beauty brands, and this was just crazy. I remember when I first saw it, it was shocking. It was one of these things where it was like, whoa, oh my God, that really did get my attention, because actually these women are human. They're more like us. So it was very, very disruptive for them to do it. And the reason I love this brand is that they weren't afraid of it. They really just embraced it. And today, actually, we can see that today, the commitment that we expect from beauty brands to represent real women has completely changed. And that is all down to this disruptive campaign that Dove actually ran. So I love it. I think it's a perfect example of disruption. The other brand that you can now see on my screen is Patagonia. And Patagonia, I love. They have this incredible initiative that they ran called "Don't Buy This Jacket," with an image of their product. So the reason this was amazing to watch is that when in the history of time have you ever seen a brand or a company that wants you to buy less from them? It's a bold message. Do not buy this jacket. The reason it was disruptive is they had a way of turning CTAs on the head. So the way that you think about a call to action, they really surprised their audiences. Rather than saying, this is why you should buy this jacket and this is why you should buy from us, they said, do not buy it. And it was a really, really strong message for defining their commitment to environmental impact. So they're very big on social impact, specifically about the environment, and that they don't think you should be purchasing products left, right, and center, that this is something you buy for life. So they're a brilliant brand for doing something disruptive. They've also got a campaign that they run, which is called Worn Wear. So you may have seen this, where they rock up to a city center on a bus and they basically will mend anything that you want. So they will stitch buttons on, they will replace zips, they will stitch up holes in clothing. They essentially want to remove fast fashion. They don't want that to be happening. They will repair any brand. It doesn't need to be a Patagonia product. You can just rock up there with whatever you have that needs mending and they will do it. How powerful is that? If you've never heard of them before and you can see that they are willing to do this because they care more about the environment than their bottom line, that gets your attention. And even with the campaign I just spoke about with regards to don't buy this jacket, that actually led to an increase in purchases from people, because people love that, right? It's like, don't do this. Well, I want to. Who are you? Why are you saying this? Oh, what an amazing message that you stand for, this environmental impact. So I do want to buy that jacket. And actually, even though that wasn't necessarily their intent, it actually had a really amazing financial reward and has done for years since then. The next brand I want to talk about is Singapore Red Cross. So this obviously very similar to the British Red Cross. They ran this campaign where essentially they were looking for people to go and give blood. We all know that that's a good thing to do, that we should be supporting, the NHS. We should be supporting our local communities by giving blood. That's something that, is an expectation on society. How many of us do it? How many times have you been told in your life that you should do it? Probably many times. It can save lives. That it's a positive thing to do for your environment, but actually very, very few people do it. So the Singapore Red Cross, they decided to change that really with this type of ads, and they called this Blood Ties. That was the name of the campaign. They sort of capitalize on young people's love of selfies and celebrities. And essentially they had all of these local, or I shouldn't say local celebrities, but Singaporean celebrities, the face of this campaign. So you've got these posters that are displayed across bus terminals, stations, all in the public view. And you've got famous people. So you've got comedians, singers, you've got bloggers, all these different people that resonate with Gen Z, who was their demographic for trying to increase the blood drive. And they've got these campaigns where you see this comedian and it says, I've got stand-up comedy in my blood. What's in yours? And you've got a famous blogger that says, I've got blogging in my blood. What's in yours? You've got this musician who's like, I've got music in my blood. What's in yours? And all of a sudden it shifts the way that the Gen Z demographic think about giving blood. Rather than being hassled to go in and do this, they're actually seeing people that they admire talk about how their blood is so much more than just blood. It's like who they are as an individual. Amazingly, I thought it was a brilliant campaign. The next campaign I wanted to quickly show you before we get into the tangible of what you can actually do in your small business. This one's really new. This is a campaign I just spotted a couple of weeks ago. It's actually a collaboration It's a collaboration between Kensington and Chelsea Council with Innocent Smoothies, and then also a charity called Hubbub, which focuses on it's an environmental charity. So the three of them collaborated. It was basically the brainchild, I think, of Innocent Smoothies. Hopefully they've got that right, Innocent Drinks. The catalyst for it basically was they wanted to use their talented writers and their designers to boost recycling rates in the community. So their headquarters are actually based in Kensington. This is a local campaign that they wanted to help contribute to. And it's brilliant. It's essentially the way that you can see it on my screen now. It's most wanted. So we sort of look at the Wild West, so this is Kensington and Chelsea's recycling most wanted. And you can see that there's a lineup of you've got the orange juice carton, the tins, the lids, the paper, all that kind of stuff. But they've given them really quirky names in this lineup and offered a reward. The reward is saving the planet. But you've got Butch Plasticky, you've got Juicy Lucy, which is the orange carton. You've got the notorious Tiny Tin, which is a tin can. I think it's brilliant. Billy the Lid. And then there's a little note to say, Billy needs to lose the lid. So when you're recycling, you're putting a jar in the bin, always remember to remove the steel lid. It was a brilliant campaign to educate people on what could be recycled. And it was a bit of a gamification, right? That is a really disruptive way to get the attention of your audience. Really playful campaign, really a way to kind of cut through and get people really educated on recycling, because that was the big challenge. They really just discovered that a lot of people just didn't know what should be going in their recycling. So love it. I thought it was great. So what are the key traits all disruptive marketing initiatives have in common? What makes something disruptive? Disruptive brands don't just push the envelope, they really crumple it up and they throw it in the trash can. It's one of these things that they're really not afraid to be daring, to break the status quo, to take risks, to generate buzz. They're not afraid of doing that. So they're not concerned with potential backlash or comments or negatives that'll come that way. And that's the tough thing for us as small businesses, right? That we're concerned with, if we go out on a limb and we say something that's a little controversial, is that going to have a negative impact on my business? And actually, there's a lot of statistics to back up that is not actually the case. So why should you be investing in disruptive marketing campaigns or thinking about doing something disruptive? There's three key reasons, I think. The first is customers talk about disruptive marketing. So if you can do something that is memorable, that cuts through, that's quirky, that's funny, that's polarizing, people talk about it. It's something that we tell our friends. This recycling one that I spotted a few weeks ago, I then talked about it across all my social media channels because I thought it was brilliant. It's one of those things that we can't help but share with other people around us because it's got our attention, right? So that is one key reason as to why you should be considering this. The second part of it is it can be really affordable. So I know I've just used a bunch of examples of huge global brands that have these massive budgets, but in just a moment, I will share with you how this can be done on a really small scale. And actually, by having a very clear opinion and a really clear message or look or feel of a brand, you can actually cut down how much you're spending on your marketing because it's easier for your audience to actually understand because you've been very polarizing in what you've said. And the third part of it is it's easy to get behind. When you've got a strong message and when you spot a brand, if you're a consumer and you spot a brand that does something that's really interesting and grabs your attention, you're more inclined to actually want to purchase from them because they've managed to capture your attention. When we all see something quirky and funny, and I had an email campaign come through the other day, and I was like, obviously I knew it was an email pitch, it was a sales pitch. But their follow-up email honestly made me laugh out loud that I called them and I'm hiring them to do some partnership work with us. So it just goes to show how powerful copywriting can be if you do something that really, breaks the status quo and kind of grabs your attention. Right, so let's move on to the 4 types of disruption. There are many more than 4, but I wanted to keep this nice and simple for starters, especially if you're a smaller business and you don't have the big marketing budget. These are 4 ways that you can implement straight away that will really capture the attention of your ideal prospects. So the first one is humor. If you can do something funny or witty or a bit quirky, something humorous, that is a way of disrupting and grabbing the attention of your audience. So the first one is humor. The second one is social impact. So we saw this when I talked about Patagonia earlier. If you've got a really strong environmental message, social impact message, that is a way to disrupt and help people to understand who you are as a business. The third one is a polarizing viewpoint. So I just mentioned this a little bit earlier. If you've got an opinion on something and it's not, it's what somebody that everybody agrees with, actually, that's a really great way of cutting through and getting some attention. We saw this across, we see this in politics all the time, right? When somebody has voted, whether somebody chose to vote Trump versus Clinton in the last election, obviously not the current election, where they stand. Just by somebody saying I'm a Trump supporter or I'm a Clinton supporter, you kind of have an understanding of who they are as a person. So that gives you a good understanding of that individual. In the UK, we had Brexit, right? We're still going through that, but perhaps it's a little bit muddy now. But actually, in the past, it was if you chose to remain or you chose to leave, and that told you something about that person. Historically, we've got things like the Stones versus the Beatles. It's a bit of a silly example, but people are very passionate about that. Whose team are you on? And just by having a viewpoint and attaching yourself to something helps people to understand more about you. And then the fourth type of disruption is the brand. It's the visuals, it's the tone of voice. It's what your brand, whether you've got contrasting colors or pops of things that are popping out everywhere, or is it black and white, monochrome, like some way that visually your brand looks to grab someone's attention, or maybe the language or imagery that you're using could also be done, a way of disrupting. So I want to give you some tangible examples of this, right? Because it's all very well me saying, yeah, do something with humor or social impact or polarizing or with your brand, but you're like, what can I do? I'm a small business and I don't have I'm not that creative, or I don't know how to think about this. So I want to give you some tangible examples. These are campaigns that we've worked across. We work a lot with small businesses. So it's about us being creative and cut through rather than spending a lot of money on these types of campaigns. So the first one I want to concentrate on is focusing on humor. Now, this is a roofing company. So they do replace roofing on conservatories. They do double glazed windows. So a very traditional, very offline business, in the trades, could possibly be called a little boring. It's one of those industries where you just think, what the heck can I do to actually cut through and be different from every other, double glazing and roofing company? So we decided to focus on, okay, what could we do to understand your audience? We understood their audience were roughly sort of age 40 to 45-year-old women, often who are at home taking care of their children. They're the ones that are making the purchase decisions about, this roof they want to replace, or this double glazing in the conservatory to keep the heat in or to keep the cold out. So that we understood that was the audience. We thought, right, how can we make this roofing company, this double glazing glass company stand out from everybody else? What we decided to run with was some little funny, quirky GIFs. So you can see here, my first example, you can see there's a baby licking a window, a little GIF. And the tagline for that is, windows good enough to lick. Now, if you imagine the demographic is a stay-at-home mom and she's got her little kids running around and, everybody's kids lick windows at some point, right? So it totally resonates with her. It's a bit funny, it's quirky, and you're just like, oh God, yeah, I definitely need to get my windows replaced. I remember this brand. The second example there you can see is a little clip from Mrs. Doubtfire, who we all love. We all know the movie, where she's sliding in and into the living rooms and sweeping. And the tagline for that was like, leave the cleaning to us. We provide conservatory cleaning and repair services that will sweep you off your feet. So again, thinking back to that demographic of the mom at home who's just cleaning up all the time and just is, has house embarrassment about this, stains on her window or the humidity between the double glazing that she needs to get replaced. And this sort of call to action, this messaging cuts straight through and people get it. And the third example that we've used for this brand is a little bit of peeping Tom. So you can see a guy looking through the blinds, zooming in on his face, and he's looking surprised with the tagline, did someone say half price roofing? And it's a little bit of a play on, the peeping Tom, which is a little bit, I guess, controversial in some ways, it could be seen. But that's a way that, a very ordinary business can actually do something quite fascinating that grabs the attention of their ideal prospects. Right, so the second example, social impact. I'm actually using my own company brand for this. So you have to excuse, this isn't a sales pitch, but it's really just an example of how, as a really small agency, we can talk about social impact. Obviously not to the same level of the extent of Patagonia, but still have some pretty positive change. So many people or may know that we run an initiative called 1 million days, where we plan to give 1 million days by 2030 in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals towards reducing inequality. So we're banging on that message all the time, right? We believe in reducing inequality. We believe in gender equality. It's just something that we think shouldn't be a thing. We shouldn't be, it shouldn't be a consideration. We have to move towards equality. We should have equality. I'm beating a drum all the time about this messaging. And there are two stories that I tell around this. One of which is that I think we all deserve to be seen and heard for what we do as businesses, no matter what size you are. And a part of that comes from, I actually suffered 3 redundancies during the last global recession. So 2007, 2008-ish. That was challenging, right? But when I actually was returning and trying to get back into the workforce and try to actually get a job, what I realized was that the industry I had been working in no longer existed. I was working in corporate travel. It just didn't exist. It had reinvented itself online. So people didn't need corporate travel agents anymore. They just did it themselves. That was, it's crazy to think that now, isn't it? It was only like 10, 12 years ago, but that was the reality. And the story that I tell around this is, that is my fear, right? My fear is that people don't evolve quickly enough to actually embrace digital. And then the other part to that is that brands aren't doing enough to progress and to show up. I actually found myself talking or interviewing with lots of other companies that were saying, oh no, well, we're not going to do the internet thing yet, or we're not going to sell on the website yet. And I was like, oh my God, you're going to get left behind. And that instilled fear in me. I'd had 3 redundancies from companies that had chosen not to embrace that. And I don't want to see anybody go through that. So that's a bit of my motivation as to why I think we need to help brands get online, to give them equal opportunity to compete with some of these bigger brands through digital, because there's a whole spiel I could go on with regards to what digital can do for you on a small budget. But that's a key message I talk about, and I relate that into us helping small brands getting the visibility I think they deserve and getting equal opportunity for business. The second story I tell is around gender equality. And that's obviously as a female-led business and the challenges that I face as a female business owner, and the remarks that are passed to me often about how I could even possibly know what I'm doing as a business owner, and what sort of support do I get from my husband, and I don't even have a husband. So, there's lots of things like that, messages that I will tell, conversations I will have, particularly in female-led businesses, for example, business meetings, where I tell that short story and they can all relate to that. And I can say, this is why we care about equality. And actually every action in our agency goes towards something positive. So that's just a little way of how me as a very small business can still talk about social impact. I'm working towards something greater, but it gets the attention. It's a way of my digital agency standing out from every other digital agency, because let's be honest, marketing is not marketing, but you know what I mean? When you're shopping around, it's hard to see the difference between agencies. So if I can talk about, this is a passion of ours, this is our social impact, do you want to be a part of it? It's a way of me standing out. Right, the third example, polarizing viewpoints. So this example is High Definition You. Gitanjali Trevorrow Seymour, who's amazing. She's a leadership coach. And the statement that you can see here is ban the C word. And we use, language across all of her social activity around things like the dirty truth about the C word, which captures your attention, right? Because you're like, the C word, oh my God, what C word? And of course, she's talking about confidence. And that's something that it still captures your attention. There's sort of like this polarizing viewpoint, ban the C word, the dirty truth about the C word. It really is one of those things that pulls you in and you're like, what is she talking about? And then quickly you realize she's talking about confidence, and she will explain to you why she thinks the confidence is a bad word. So that's a really great way of not doing something super controversial, but having a view, having an opinion on something that isn't the norm. A lot of people would say confidence is actually a positive word. She disagrees, and she will tell you why. And if you go through any of her content, that is very clear. So it's how she disrupts. When you're scrolling through a feed, you see that messaging from her, you stop the scroll and you read, right? Because it's captivating. The fourth example is the brand. So this is thinking about the look, the sound, the feel of your brand. So, is it your color palette, where you've got a really interesting brand that captures the attention? Is it the language that you used? Are you using some some shocking imagery that grabs your attention. Anything brand related can help you to stand out from the crowd. So the example I'm using here is a company called Blue Moose. They're a sales agency based up in Manchester, a very small business, and we helped them with the inception of this brand. And actually, we did things like we had this, a moose designed, and then we did all of this research around moose and how they live in their current environment and the things that they're really good at, and what do they eat, and how do they, reproduce, and all this kind of stuff. It was quite a fascinating campaign to work on. And then we related that back to the sales industry, and we talked about, different parts of a business development program and which moose are you, and it was very sort of quirky, and it's a really fascinating brand because if you read through any of the copywriting, it is really quirky and fun. There's a lot of puns. So for any of you pun lovers out there, this is a brand to look at. The more you read it, the funnier it becomes. And so it's just an interesting way that if you can, capture the visual captures your attention. If you get them to the point where they're actually reading through the copy, it's really engaging because it's quirky and funny. So we actually did some research where we did some market research sort of afterwards about the brand. And we actually found that 97% of attendees smiled when reading the copy. So that's a really nice way of evoking emotion, right? 97%, that's a pretty decent rate. 82% were able to recall 4 stages of this company's business development program, which was called Which Moose Are You? And that was down to, the way it was described in the visuals. And 72% agreed they would contact the company over the 5 leading competitors. That's pretty impressive, right? And that's what a brand can do. And this is a really tiny business. They were in their first year. They'd not even hit £100,000 in revenue. And the fact that they could actually cut through that significantly because of the brand is really impressive. So I just want to stress that, this isn't about investing a lot of money in things. It's just about being strategic and not being afraid to do something a little bit different to actually stand out from the crowd. So 4 action steps to disruption, right? Here we go. Step 1 for you. So if you're thinking about one of these different sort of 4 types of disruption I'm talking about, these are the 4 steps you need to take to actually get to that point. So the first one, strong brand identity. Know who you are, know who your customers are, know what your USPs are. You have to be clear on your offer, right? That is the starting point. There's no point running any kind of marketing, let alone disruptive marketing, if that is not clear. The second thing, determine which causes and issues resonate with your business. So this could be you as a business owner, or it could be as the business as a whole. What issues do you care about? What causes are you passionate about? Really getting clear on that is important. Don't worry too much about how do we tie it into the business yet. Just think about what's your big reason why? What are you trying to achieve here? The third one is find alignment with your customers. What do your customers care about? What resonates with them? What issues are they passionate about? So you figured out what you're passionate about. What do they care about? Where's the alignment there? Because if you can tie those messages together, that's a really great starting point. And then the fourth point is understand that there will be divide, right? To do something disruptive means that it's not going to be accepted by everybody, right? And this is the biggest challenge, right? I speak to businesses every day that are like, oh, I'm afraid, I'm scared, I don't want to say this because what if somebody writes a bad review or somebody comments on this and disagrees? I'm like, that's what we want. We want disruption. We want to go against the grain. We want to be putting something out there that not everybody agrees with. That's how you get attention. You want people talking about you. And this is such an important thing for small businesses because it's how you get attention, right? If you offer something that is not different from anybody else, how does anybody know how to find you? Or how are they going to remember you? Even if they did spot your business, they walked past your business on the high street, or they saw your business on a social media platform, but they weren't quite ready to purchase. How are they ever going to remember you if you haven't said something bold that resonates with them, had some kind of social impact, done something funny? Like, how are they going to remember who you are? We are blasted with messages every single day. I think over 3,000 messages a day each of us receive. So it's really important, especially in a crowded marketplace, especially if you've got a lot of competitors that do the same thing as you, to think about how can I do something disruptive? Let's move on to questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, please do post your questions. There's some really interesting comments that come up so far. There's a question about the best platform. That one came in quite early, so I'm not too sure what that one is about. But
Okay, I can actually go ahead.
Yeah, you jump in on that one.
Well, okay, so I get this question all the time, right? Which platform should I be doing my disruptive messaging on? The answer to that is wherever your customers are. So big mistake lots of businesses make is choosing a platform they love. So it's like, I love using Pinterest and Instagram, so I'm going to use that for my business. Who are your audience? Who are your customers? Who buys from you? You have to understand who they are, and you have to understand which platforms they're using to know what kind of marketing you should be doing, right? So it's never about us, it's always about them. We need to think about, if nobody's sending them direct mail, do direct mail. If they're all on Facebook, then you need to be on Facebook. If they're all on LinkedIn, you need to be on LinkedIn. You just have to go to where they are. So I can't say any one particular platform, but it just completely comes down to your customer.
Right. Hazel says, I was surprised to hear your view on polarizing stances. I have some personal values that are perhaps polarizing, and I've been careful to keep a lot of myself out of marketing. But you're the second business guru, you're a business guru, Stacey, to encourage injecting personality into marketing. And I think that's really interesting because, yes, but people buy from people, don't they? So personality is really incredibly important. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah. I get it. I know it's scary. I know that we don't all want to put everything out there about ourselves, but honestly, it's a noisy place out there, right? There's a lot of content coming through our feeds on social. We're getting blasted with thousands of messages every single day. So my view is, if you don't have an opinion on something, you've got no way of getting the attention. You have to be bold. You have to be okay with taking a little bit of a risk. And I can't tell you the amount of times that I've shared content where I think, oh, I shouldn't really post this. This is something personal. Or like, I posted something the other day about a renovation of my house, and I was like, I shouldn't really do this because this is a business platform, and nobody wants to see that I've got a house that looks like a squatter house because I can't make a decision on how to paint the walls and what to do with the floors. But I thought, I'll put it out there, and I can't even tell you the amount of engagement I got on that. And from not just my friends, I'm talking prospects. I've got clients that reach out to me and said, I cannot believe that you've been living this way and you haven't had me come in and help you. And I was like, oh God, okay. So, don't be afraid. Just get out there. People resonate with the weird and the wonderful.
I do think that is the thing that small businesses can do so well, that is a real competitive advantage in bringing your personality into the brand in a way that is much harder for a larger business to do. And I'm all about taking advantage of any competitive advantage we possibly can right now, definitely. Gwen says, as a virtual assistant, it's really hard to stand out in marketing when it comes to saving clients time. Yeah, it's quite a common market. What would be your top tip for standing out from others here?
Right. So if you're a virtual assistant, this applies to any industry, right? Start with these 4 different types of disruption. There's many more, but I just want to keep it simple. So I guess if you're a virtual assistant, Gwen, you want to think about, okay, yes, I just do what every other virtual assistant does. That might be true, right, in terms of your actual operations. But what is going to get the attention of potential clients is either you personally, is it that you can work in some kind of humor to the way that you do what you do? If you're kind of a funny, quirky person, what can you do that grabs the attention, where that just really cuts through? Is there some kind of social impact you can build in? Is there a view that you can have on, I don't know, the specific sector that you focus in on? Can you do something with your brand that just really gets someone's attention? So these 4 types of disruption are just a really good place to start. I'm the same, right? I run a digital marketing agency. There are thousands of us in London alone. What do I do that's different from everybody else? I would love to tell you all my USPs, but the reality is, like, we're all doing the same thing. You're buying into the type of messaging and our understanding of the business, and we all have the struggle. This is not a unique struggle for any small business or any large business for that matter. So you've just got to choose some form of messaging, whether that's that we are going to be humorous and funny and do quirky things, or we're going to go social impact, or we're going to have this really polarizing view on this particular subject for this sector, and just go for it. Like, that's the best way for you to stand out from everybody else.
That's super helpful. And actually, the next question I think is kind of in the same, it's sort of in the same vein. This is from Bimpe. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. I run a coffee shop. I'm wondering how I can go about disruptive marketing. And I think it kind of comes but again, it kind of comes back to this. There are lots of coffee shops, but there's only one you coffee shop. So I guess thinking about the humour, the social impact. And any thoughts on coffee shops, Stacey?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I've got a really good example of a coffee shop. So I've seen this presented lots of times before. A friend of mine who really is focused on social impact does this very well. There's two coffee shops right beside each other. They both sell coffee, they both sell muffins. One of which, the easiest way to stand out, first of all, is brand, right? So what does your signage look like? What does the environment look like within your business? That's a differentiating point. But social impact, I think, is a huge part of it. So there's a coffee shop that I know of that essentially have aligned, they do something really similar to what we do, which is aligning everyday business practices with doing something good in the world. And so there's an organization, for example, that you can give water to. So I'm just giving a very specific coffee shop example, but for every coffee purchased at this coffee shop, they give access to 1 day's access to clean drinking water in, I think this one was it in Kenya or was it in Cambodia? I can't quite remember exactly the location, but they told a story about that. So and it was printed on the coffee cup. And they had little flyers in the coffee shop. So it was like, when you purchase this coffee, did you know you've just given 1 day of access to clean drinking water to this to this child in a developing country. So if I'm walking along the street and there's two coffee shops beside each other, one of them has this amazing social impact, the other one is just a coffee shop, like which one am I going to choose?
Oh, and it's interesting the different ways that you can do that and do that online as well.
And honestly, it's so cheap to do that. It costs 1 cent a day. So for every coffee you sell, 1 cent goes towards 1 cent to give a child access to clean drinking water. So
you could do 3 days. You could do a week. I'm getting carried away here. Right. Lots of questions. An interesting question from Mamu who asks about having a cohesive message when you have a varied customer base. Because I guess if you're thinking about disruption, engaging with varied customers.
Yes. We don't know the sector, do we, by chance? Or no? We're just assuming.
I don't have the sector on here. No.
Okay, so different customer bases. So this is a really good point. You may have, how I would do this is I would do it campaign specific. So again, it depends on the size of your business, but the first example that comes to mind is when we're working with multiple customer avatars, so multiple audiences, you might have different messaging for each of them because it's going to resonate differently, right? So that would come down to the way that you run a campaign. So if you're doing some kind of advertising, this can be done really easily with, LinkedIn ads or Facebook ads or even Google ads, that you display this specific message to this specific demographic. If we think about the Singapore Red Cross example that I used in the presentation, obviously that was aimed at Gen Z. Would it also relate to, an older generation? Maybe, but they might choose to use different celebrities in that campaign, for example. So what we would do with advertising, or what you would do with your advertising, is you would dice up how you're putting that message in front of people by demographic. That would be the best example I would use. Is if you're worried about individual demographics, is that you can absolutely have different messages that go to that different audience, and you just do that through ads.
Oh, yes, brilliant. I think we've probably got time for one, maybe two more questions. There's quite a lot. It's been so interesting today. This one I think is a really interesting one. It's saying, because we've got a couple on this topic about competitors. It says, can you be disruptive by directly comparing your products against your competitor brands? We have a product which has better USPs. It's a food product, so better nutritional values than our competitors. But should we be calling them out on social? Would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I love the idea of this. I think you do need to be cautious with trademark, obviously, and defamation. I would look at, what's possible. I believe, and please don't quote me on this, seek legal advice, but I believe that if that's an actually true statement that can be proven, you actually can do it. So you might recall over the last couple of months, there've been some campaigns you see on TV ads comparing, like Tesco's to Sainsbury's, or and they say, this is what we're able to do. And they really just say, if you buy from them, it costs this much. You buy from us, it costs this much. And they blatantly call them out on their pricing. So I believe the way that they get away with that is through, it's actually a true statement that can be proven. But I think you probably need some kind of legal advice on whether that's possible for your industry with your competitors, et cetera, et cetera. But I do like the idea of it. And I guess I would question, is there a way to do that without specifically mentioning them? For example, 9 out of 10 agencies in this industry do this. We do this, or whatever, to maybe just differentiate yourself. Would be the
but refer to them without actually saying who they are.
Yeah, I mean,
that Aldi advert, isn't it? Great Aldi advert that says, here's the branded one, it's really great, and here's our one, it's really great too, but here's the price. So they never actually say anything bad about anyone, because the different price. But if you're differentiating on another aspect, I guess it's kind of having a think through how you can do that, how you can do that legally and ethically as well, but also, you know, kind of point out there's nothing wrong with blowing your own trumpet, saying where you're brilliant.
Absolutely. Shout about it.
Oh, I think we're going to have to stop there. I've just noticed the time. Lots of questions. What I can suggest is that if you have further questions, please do send them in to hello@smallbusinessbritain.uk, and we will pass them on to Stacey and get an answer to your questions. We absolutely promise. So please do stay in touch. Send us through your questions. I just want to say a massive thank you to Stacey for what a great workshop today. It's been really, really super interesting. Thank you very much for leading us through. It's been, you know, I'm feeling quite disruptive myself now.
Small Business Britain, you guys are doing some amazing disruptive work. I love it. I thank you so much for inviting me. It's been amazing, and I'm sorry that we have such a short amount of time, but hopefully every one of us on this call can take one of those 4 elements and implement it in some way.
I really look forward to hearing from you. So when you go forwards and make these changes, let us know. Do get in touch. Tell us how you've been disruptive and how you've made changes to your brand. We'd love to hear about that. Please do join us we have more workshops. Skills for Tomorrow has lots and lots of stuff going on, as well as, of course, the Small Business Britain workshops. You can find them on bt.com/skills for tomorrow. You can find out lots of things on this. In fact, you can share your great experience of this on social media with #Skills for Tomorrow, and we will be back. We're in fact back next week talking about cybersecurity, so do sign up for that. That's going to be really, really super interesting. We look forward to seeing you all very soon. Have a great day, take care, and look after yourselves and be disruptive. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you very much for everybody for tuning in to today's episode on disruptive marketing. I hope you enjoyed listening to and hearing about some of the really intriguing and interesting ways that some of these brands are capturing the attention of their audiences. I want to say a huge thank you to Small Business Britain and to BT for their Skills for Tomorrow campaign, for the invitation to appear on this webinar. I thoroughly enjoyed being here today and really look forward to future collaborations with you all. See you soon.